Okay, Dio Delgado asks, what character and player do you want to see more in tournaments? So first off, Snake Eyes Akuma. The reason I say that is because I've seen Snake Eyes Akuma and it's amazing. Zangief is very interesting for people who know a lot about fighting games, and I don't know that that's helpful for the growth of the fighting game community to sit around watching footsies to that degree, that degree of expertise. It's actually a really much bigger conversation about the difference between players and spectators, and we'll talk a little bit about it later. But it's very exciting. Some of the hypest moments, without a doubt, for Ultra Street Fighter 4 were Daigo's extraordinarily long combo against Momochi, which F Word is famous commentary goes with. There's no denying that these amazingly long combos, particularly when they're a comeback, are very interesting to watch, particularly if they're skillful to do. Again, the difference between playing and spectating, and we'll talk about that later. Now, having said Snake Eyes and Akuma, interestingly enough, Snake Eyes does sort of represent Zangief, and I also kind of love that idea too. I love the idea of a player becoming a character and staying a loyalist. Daigo is RYU. Does these amazing things, like he disappears when they want to give him this big fat check at the end of the Capcom Cup 2015. He's not there. And everyone knew, immediately, the meme was RYU at the end of Street Fighter 2, walking away. He's not on the podium. Where is he? He's gone to find the next fight. I just love that. I love that. So, for me, Daigo with RYU, Alex Valle with RYU. I'd love to see Alex Valle. Alex Valle is doing an amazing job. What he's doing now, you couldn't ask more for the FGC. And just, I want to see more of, he was the original, one of the originals, but he was that guy that you feel you can put in front of anybody and he can beat anybody in the world. And I don't care how old he is, he's still that exciting to watch. PR Balrog with Balrog. Takedo with Akuma. I hope he stays with Akuma for this season 2. He's going to figure out whether or not Akuma can win. And my concern is that Akuma, it just takes one good guess from Balrog and Akuma's done. And that's a concern about season 2. And it concerns me about whether Echo Fox want Takedo to win and whether Takedo wants to win. Because Takedo changed his mindset. That's a whole nother video. And he mentions it in my interview. He actually did another big interview which was translated by Daigo's Juna. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he did a good translation of an interview with a university professor who did a study with Takedo, and this is when Takedo started actually doing his meditation because he was finding he was getting fatigued in games because he was concentrating, whereas Daigo was actually zoning out during games, which was similar to meditation. God knows if Daigo was doing it on purpose or not, but that was the big difference, and that's how Takedo started to think differently. And then he also started to pick different characters. He wanted characters, he wants to be good. Go back to my interview and you'll see that answer. But extraordinarily interesting. Knuckle-Doo with Guile. People want to see Knuckle-Doo play Guile. Yeah, it's fun to see him playing Mika or whatever. Season 1 was kind of fun, but remember when Guile first came out and everyone was like, Dominion and Knuckle-Doo, we just want to see you guys play Guile. And Knuckle-Doo did it a couple times for the crowd. That was exciting. And I am on the side of player, don't get me wrong, but I'm also on the side of the excitement and the crowd. And the player is too, believe me, because that's their future, is the excitement, is what the crowd gets from all of this as well. So I guess, long story short, I want to see it's my romantic notion to see players who are character loyalists and win with one character. That's I want to see more of that. Continue to see more of that. And I think it's good for them because I think they build a brand around it. I think Daigo's built a brand for himself, and I think Takedo, if he sticks with Akuma, can continue to be Akuma. Murderface, Takedo. He's gonna kill you. He's gonna get up on stage and he's gonna do it. He's gonna do this in front of the projector. Okay, time for a little rant then. Seeing as we're talking about Ryu, I think nerfing Ryu and Shoto's, but I think nerfing Ryu. We don't know for sure yet if he's totally, completely, utterly useless, but they took away the invincible DP and it kind of saddens me, that direction. And I could be wrong in the long run, but right now my thoughts are sort of like nerfing Ryu is bad for business. It's bad for business. Ryu is the most well-known fighting game character in the world. And you have the most well-known fighting game in the world, Street Fighter. And it is built around Shotos and fireballs and uppercuts. And I think the more that you do to move away from that, the more that you do to nerf those type of characters, like Ken, the more you move away from the franchise that is Street Fighter. And when you move away from a franchise, it no longer becomes the franchise. You may as well just make a new game. I say that because it's happened so many times in gaming history. It's unbelievable. Nintendo are the one company that is able to seems to be able to maintain a franchise without destroying it, evolving it. So the quote is evolution, not revolution. Like Nintendo can evolve something without changing it so much that it is no longer the game that you bought into, the franchise you bought into. The truth is, a lot of us, we want changes, but we want changes that the truth is we don't want a different game. You know, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, it blew up spectacularly this year because you had this amazing space game. That's great. But it's not Call of Duty, right? So it's not what people wanted to buy. I eventually bought the game to play the remastered version of Call of Duty 4. A game which, by the way, you can jump in and out of really quickly, like you used to be able to with Street Fighter 4, but you can't now with Street Fighter 5 because it's a bit of a hassle. But we'll talk about that as well. The content built around Ryu is tremendous. You know, if you talk to YouTubers or whoever makes content, you will realize some of the biggest streamers, the most important content is built around Ryu as a tutorial tool. Most people's first character is Ryu until they move on. And beginners like to pick up Ken and play Flowchart Ken. So I think that this idea of like nerfing Ryu is kind of bad for business. I think that the reason, not the main reason, I think Daigo, has played a lot of different characters in the past. He definitely has, and he even had that young period in Street Fighter 4. Way before that, he used to play Guile. He used to play Boxer, Sagat, Akuma in Alpha days. He's played lots of different characters. There's no doubt about that. But he soon started to become Ryu. There was some point where he became Ryu. This time round, he was almost going to drop. It looked like he was almost going to drop Ryu after the perceived nerfs, right, for Season 2. He says he's sticking with Ryu. Now, I believe he's done that for a lot of different reasons, but I will say this. I do think one of the reasons is that his show would be a different show if it was based around him maining Guile. He does bring on guests every week, and they do talk about breaking down characters and so on, and that's amazing. But you kind of have to have like a core character which underpins the whole show. And I think for Daigo, that you have to remain with Ryu. That character, and whenever you break down other characters or how to get at other characters, becomes interesting from the perspective of Ryu. And then you start to apply that to other characters. So I think Ryu, I think Ryu is important. I think nerfing him is bad for the game, and I think nerfing Shotos in general is bad for the franchise.